Welcome back, everyone. Usually when we talk about the Himalayas, we're setting the scene with prayer flags fluttering in the wind, snow-capped peaks.
Yaks blocking the trail, that whole thing.
Exactly. The spiritual finding yourself vibe, the postcard.
The bucket list dream.
Right, the National Geographic cover photo. But today, we are taking a sledgehammer to that image. We aren't talking about summits. We're talking about a criminal syndicate.
A syndicate that has, it's turned the world's most famous mountain range into its own private ATM.
And not just a regular ATM. This is something else entirely. We're diving into the breaking news out of Kathmandu this week. It's being called the Nepal Rescue Scam 2026. Leading arrests made.
And just to be clear, when we say private ATM, we're talking about huge numbers.
The numbers are staggering. We're talking about $21.7 million in fraud.
And that's just what they know of.
That's just what they know of. Between 2022 and 2025 alone. And our guide through all this is the incredible reporting by David Ways.
Right. David Ways. If you've ever planned a trip to Nepal, you've probably ended up on his website, The Longest Way Home. He writes the guidebooks.
Oh, I know his work.
Yeah, he's sort of the Sherlock Holmes of the trekking industry. And this isn't a new topic for him. He's been tracking this specific corruption since 2011.
So this is a follow-up then?
This is the sequel. This is the big one. He covered the original massive investigation back in 2018.
Okay, so that's where we need to start. Because to really get what's happening this week, in January 2026, we have to go back in time.
Yeah, you really do. We need to talk about the baking soda era.
It sounds like a bad joke, doesn't it? A baking soda era.
It does. It sounds like something out of a high school chemistry class.
But reading David's notes on this, it's actually terrifying. It's not just paperwork. I think when people hear insurance fraud, their eyes glaze over. This is physical.
It's assault. Let's put you in the boots of a trekker for a second. You've saved up for 2 years for this trip, Everest Base Camp. You're at, say, 4,000 meters. The air is thin, you're tired, and you are completely dependent on your guide.
He's your lifeline. I don't speak the language. I don't know the terrain.
Exactly. So you sit down for dinner at a tea house. You're feeling okay, a little winded maybe, but fine. Your guide brings you a bowl of garlic soup. It's a staple up there. It's supposed to help with the altitude.
Right. You trust him.
You trust him. You eat it. And 20 minutes later, your stomach turns inside out.
Because of the soup.
Because your guide, or the tea house owner working with your guide, just spiked that soup with a massive dose of baking soda. Sodium bicarbonate.
Why baking soda? What does that do?
In high doses, it creates this volcanic reaction in your gut. Gas, bloating, and this is the crucial part, uncontrollable, explosive diarrhea.
My God. So you're at 4,000 meters. You're already fighting dehydration from the trek, and now you're just losing fluids at a catastrophic rate.
You are in agony. You're terrified. You think it's dysentery or cholera, or even worse, you think it's high-altitude sickness really kicking in. You don't know you've been poisoned. You just know you need help now.
And the guide, the very person who poisoned you, steps in like he's the hero.
He's right there. Oh, no, this looks very bad, very serious. We need to get you down immediately. I'll call a helicopter.
And that's the payday.
That's the jackpot. The second that chopper lifts off the ground, the scam is complete.
How does the money work?
The trekking agency gets a huge commission on the flight, sometimes 50% of the cost. The hospital they take you to gets to bill your insurance for days of ICU care you don't actually need.
And me, the trekker. I just go home thinking I have a weak stomach.
You go home thinking you had a lucky escape. You tell your friends, my guide saved my life.
That is just diabolical. You're physically harming your own clients for a commission.
It was the Wild West back then, in 2018. It was crude, it was violent, but it made a lot of people very, very rich.
And the government had to have known about this. This wasn't some hidden secret.
Oh, not at all. It got so bad that in 2018, there was a massive government fact-finding mission, and they didn't just look into it. They produced a 700-page report.
700 pages. That's not a report, that's a novel.
It was a detailed dossier. It named names. It listed the specific trekking agencies, the helicopter companies, the hospitals. They had the receipts. They had confessions. It was all there.
So the obvious question then is, why wasn't it fixed? If they had a 700-page book of evidence in 2018, why are we sitting here in 2026 talking about leading arrests?
Why did these guys get to operate for another 7 years?
Exactly.
This is the tragic part of the story. The key figure, the person really pushing that 2018 investigation forward, was the tourism minister at the time. A man named Rabindra Adhikari. He was the one driving the cleanup.
Okay, so he was the champion for this.
He was. And then in February 2019, he died.
Whoa, what happened?
He was in a helicopter crash in Tepeljung.
You're kidding me. A helicopter crash?
Yeah. Along with several other high-profile officials, it was a massive tragedy for Nepal. But in the power vacuum that followed his death, the investigation it stopped.
It died with him.
Essentially, yes. That 700-page report was shelved, put in a dark drawer somewhere, and the people named in that report, the scammers, they realized no one was coming for them.
They basically got a get-out-of-jail-free card.
They got a 7-year grace period. And this is where the story shifts. It goes from, thugs with baking soda to sophisticated corporate organized crime. Because over those 7 years, they refined the system.
They realized poisoning people was messy.
Messy and risky. They figured out how to do it all with paper.
Which brings us to this week, January 25th, 2026. The Central Investigation Bureau, the CIB, they finally make a move.
They didn't just make a move, they kicked the doors in. They arrested 6 top-level executives. And this is where David Weiss' reporting is so crucial, because he immediately cross-referenced the names of those arrested with his own notes from that shelved 2018 report. Okay. It's the same guys.
The same guys from the 700-page book.
The exact same player. I mean, let's just look at the roster. You have Mountain Rescue Service Private Limited. The police arrested the chairman, Jairam Aramal, and a manager, Bibek Pandey.
Mountain Rescue Service.
Yeah.
That name sounds so official, so trustworthy.
It sounds comforting, doesn't it? But back in 2018, David's reporting shows they were named as one of the primary offenders. They were the poster children for the scam.
And for 7 years, this guy, Jairam Rimal, has been walking around Kathmandu, running this business, knowing his name is in a government file labeled fraud, and nothing happened.
Nothing. Until Sunday.
Unbelievable. Who else was arrested?
Nepal Charter Service. They arrested the director, another Rabindra Adhikari, obviously not the deceased minister, just a very unfortunate coincidence with the name, and Bibek Raj Thapalia.
Okay.
And then Everest Experience and Assistance. They got the managing director, Mukti Pandey, and another director, Subhash Casey.
These aren't small-time operators. These are major companies.
These are the big players. And the charges reflect that. They aren't being charged with petty theft. They are looking at organized crime, criminal profit, money laundering, and get this, offenses against the national interest.
Wow. That last one, that's heavy. That's usually reserved for, like, spies or terrorists.
Well, in Nepal, tourism is the absolute lifeblood of the economy. If you systematically destroy the reputation of the trekking industry, you are stealing food from the table of every honest porter, every tea house owner, every taxi driver in the country. You're attacking the nation's wallet.
That makes sense. But, okay, this is where it gets really interesting. The police arrest these 6 guys. But David Weiss noticed something else happening, something suspicious at the airport.
The Great Exodus.
It sounds biblical.
It was pure panic. It seems as soon as the CIB started dusting off those old files, a lot of other people who were deeply involved in the 2018 scam suddenly decided it was a great time for an extended holiday abroad.
Where are they going?
All over. Portugal, the USA, India, Australia, all over Europe.
Is there a pattern there?
Well, Portugal has that golden visa program, if you have enough cash. The US and Australia are classic destinations if you want to disappear with money. The point is, they're fleeing.
Okay.
They know the game is up. They got away with it for years while that file was dusty, but the second the handcuffs came out for the Mountain Rescue Service guys, the rest of the syndicate scrambled for the exits.
It's a confession by flight.
Precisely. You don't just pack up and move your entire life to Portugal overnight unless you have a very good reason to leave Nepal in a hurry.
I want to circle back to something, though. The narrative. Because back in 2018, when this first blew up, the powerful trekking agencies, they didn't hold their hands up and say, oops, we have a corruption problem.
No. Their PR strategy was to go on the attack, aggressive deflection, and they played the nationalism card hard. They said, this isn't us, it's the foreigners.
And they had a specific target, didn't they? A specific person.
They did. A man named Danny Kane.
Who is Danny Kane?
At the time, he worked for an organization called Traveler Assist. They were basically insurance auditors. They were the people sent in by the big global insurance companies to look at the receipts and ask the awkward questions like, hey, why did this 20-minute helicopter flight cost $12,000?
So he was the guy trying to stop the fraud.
He was the cop on the beat. And because he was good at his job, the syndicate came for him. The wealthy trekking agents and the resort owners, they started this massive campaign, first whispers and then shouts, claiming that Danny Kane was the mastermind behind the whole thing.
Wait a minute. They claimed the insurance auditor was running the scam.
Yes, the logic was, well, the logic never really held water. They claimed he was orchestrating the fake rescues to, what, drive up insurance premiums? It was absurd on its
It
face.
sounds completely ridiculous. How could one British guy control hundreds of Nepali guides, helicopter pilots, hospital administrators across dozens of different insurance companies?
It's practically impossible. And Kane himself stated very clearly that his investigation was requested by Nepali officials. He was invited in to help clean up the mess. But, you know, for an evil mastermind is a very convenient story to sell to the local press if you want to distract from the fact that you're the one cashing the fraudulent checks.
It's classic gaslighting on a national scale.
Total gaslighting. And for a while, it kind of worked. It muddied the waters enough.
But looking at it now, in 2026,
The 2026 arrests just completely vindicate him. Danny Kane is long gone from Nepal. Traveler Assist isn't involved in this capacity anymore. And yet, the scam didn't stop. It got bigger, it got more sophisticated, and every single person arrested, all Nepali, the same local power brokers who were there in 2018 trying to blame him.
so the foreign scapegoat was a complete lie.
It was a smokescreen. These arrests prove that this was, and always has been, a local syndicate.
Okay, let's get into the sophisticated part. You said they moved on from baking soda. So how do you steal $21 million without physically poisoning people?
You get really, really good at paperwork. The CIB has a name for the new method. They call it the 4-for-1 trick.
All right, break that down for us.
Okay, so imagine this scenario. You have 4 different hikers from 4 different trekking groups, maybe at base camp. They aren't dying, maybe they're just tired, or the weather looks bad, or they have a mild headache. The company decides to evacuate all of them.
Okay.
They send one helicopter, it lands, picks up all 4 hikers. All 4 of them are on that one bird on the same flight manifest, flying back to Kathmandu together. One flight, one pilot, one fuel bill.
Sounds efficient.
In a normal, honest business, you'd split the cost of that flight 4 ways, or you'd bill for one charter flight. But here is the genius and the absolute evil of the scam. There is no central database for travel insurance claims.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that AIG in New York doesn't talk to Allianz in Germany. World Nomads in Australia doesn't compare notes with AXIs in France in real time. They are fierce competitors. They don't share data.
I think I see where this is going.
The trekking agencies know this, so they take that one flight and they create 4 completely separate sets of paperwork. Invoice A goes to Hiker 1's insurance company, claiming a private emergency rescue mission. Invoice B goes to Hiker 2's insurance company, also claiming a private rescue mission. And so on 4 times.
So they get paid 4 times for one single flight.
Exactly. The CIB cited a specific case. The actual cost of the flight was around $31,100. But because they billed it 4 times as 4 separate private rescues, they collected over $120,000.
That is just an insane profit margin.
It's almost all pure profit. And unless the 4 different insurance adjusters in 4 different countries happen to meet for a beer and compare spreadsheets, they would never, ever know.
But that's only half the scam, right? Because once they land in Kathmandu, they have to go to the hospital.
And that's where part 2 kicks in. Let's call it the hospital ransom. This is the second revenue stream.
How does that one work?
Okay, so the hikers land. They might feel fine by now. The headache is probably gone because they're at a lower altitude. But the guide and the driver, they insist. No, it's insurance protocol. You have to go to the hospital for a checkup.
Which sounds responsible on the surface.
It sounds totally responsible, but they don't take you to just any hospital. They take you to a specific hospital that is on the scam. You walk in, a doctor might take your blood pressure. They give you a bottle of water, maybe an aspirin. You sit on a bed for an hour. Then they send you to your hotel.
Okay, so a basic checkup.
That's what you experience.
No.
But the paperwork, the hospital faxes to your insurance company, it tells a very different story. It says you were admitted to the intensive care unit for 3 days with a severe case of acute mountain sickness. They forge the admission times, they forge the discharge summaries, they forge the pathology reports.
So the insurance company's paying for 3 days of ICU care that never even happened.
Precisely. David Ways quotes a UK insurer official who said they interviewed tourists who admitted, I was in the hospital for maybe 45 minutes, but the bill submitted was for $12,000.
12 grand for a bottle of water and an aspirin.
So you combine the fake 4-for-1 flight billing with the fake hospital billing, and you can see how they hit that $21.7 million figure so quickly. It's an industrial scale operation.
It's infuriating because at the end of the day, this dries up costs for every single person who wants to travel.
Oh, absolutely. But let's pause on the why now question. Because we established the report was shelved in 2019. There was radio silence for 7 years. So why did the police suddenly wake up on a Sunday in January 2026 and decide to act?
Yeah, the timing does feel convenient.
It is extremely suspicious. And there's a really weird detail from the police press conference that David picked up on. The CIB spokesperson claimed that the past crimes, the ones from the 2018 report, were hard to prove.
Hard to prove. You just said there was a 700-page book of evidence.
Right. It makes no sense. David points this out immediately. He's like, what do you mean hard to prove? You have the evidence. It's in your own government's report. But the police are taking this strange stance of, oh, that old stuff is messy and difficult, but don't worry, we have buckets of fresh evidence for the 2026 crimes.
So it feels like they're selectively prosecuting the new stuff to avoid having to answer the awkward question of why they ignored the old stuff for 7 years.
That's one very strong theory. It keeps the focus on the now and avoids the question of, who was paid off to keep that file drawer closed for all that time.
But there's a political angle here too, isn't there? A ticking clock.
A huge one. Nepal has been going through a lot of turmoil. There were massive anti-corruption protests across the country in 2025. The public is angry and fed up.
Yeah.
The current government is just an interim government.
A caretaker government.
Exactly. And their mandate, their time in power, ends on March 5th.
March 5th. That is literally just a few weeks from now.
The clock is ticking down fast. So you have to ask yourself, is this a genuine long-term cleanup? Or is this a last hurrah? Is this the interim government trying to look tough on crime right before they have to hand over the keys to the next administration?
Look at the great job we did. We arrested the bad guys. Vote for us.
It's a fantastic headline right before an election, but the fear, and this is a very, very real fear among observers in Kathmandu, is what happens on March 6th.
A new government comes in.
A new government comes in, and the people who were just arrested, Jairam Ramal, Mukti Pandey, these are incredibly wealthy, powerful, and politically connected men. They have a lot of friends. They've donated to a lot of campaigns.
So the new government might just let them go.
Or the investigation stalls.
Right.
Or key evidence gets lost. Or the lead prosecutor gets transferred to a remote border post. We've seen this movie before in Nepal.
That's incredibly cynical, but probably realistic.
It is. The head of the CIB, AIG Manoj Kumar Casey, he knows this. At the press conference, he dropped a quote that felt very pointed, very deliberate. He said, "Crime thrives when strong action is not taken."
He's not just stating a fact. He's talking to the next government.
He's putting it on the record for everyone to hear. He's basically saying, I've started this. If this investigation dies after March 5th, everyone will know it was you who killed it. He's trying to fireproof his own investigation against the political transition.
It's a high-stakes game of political chicken. And the real victim is the reputation of Nepal's entire tourism industry.
Which is already bleeding out because of this.
Well, let's talk about that fallout. Because if I'm a big insurance company in London or Munich, and I'm seeing these fraudulent bills pour in year after year, I'm not just going to keep writing checks forever.
Nope. The well is running dry. And David Ways reports that UK-based insurers, who are some of the biggest players, are getting ready to drop the hammer. They are signaling that Nepal might be moved to a higher risk category for travel insurance.
Okay, translate that for the average backpacker. What does higher risk actually mean for my wallet?
It means a couple of bad things. It could mean your standard travel insurance, the one you buy for $50 online, might suddenly have a fine print exclusion for trekking in Nepal.
So it just wouldn't be covered.
Or they'll still cover you, but the premium jumps from $50 to $500.
Ouch.
Or, and this might be the worst option, they introduce massive surplus charges.
What's a surplus charge?
Think of it like a deductible on steroids. The policy might say, sure, we cover helicopter rescue in Nepal, but because we know half of them are scams, you, the trekker, have to pay the first $5,000 out of your own pocket.
That makes trekking completely unaffordable for a huge number of people.
It decimates the budget traveler market, but here's a really weird anomaly that Dave's report points out. While the European insurers are freaking out about this, the U.S. insurers are surprisingly chill.
Really? Americans love to sue people. You'd think they'd be all over this.
You would think. But the data shows that U.S.-based travel insurance claims remain lower, or at least the fraud detection rate is much lower. And there's a fascinating theory as to why.
Let me guess. It's because our own healthcare system is so obscenely expensive that the numbers don't look weird to us.
Bingo. Think about it. If you break your leg skiing in Colorado and need an air ambulance to Vail, that bill is going to be $50, $60, maybe $80,000. Easy.
Oh, at least.
So when an American claims adjuster gets a bill from Nepal for, say, $30,000 for a helicopter ride and a 3-day hospital stay, they don't scream fraud. They look at the number and they think, wow, what a bargain, approved.
That is the most painfully American thing I have ever heard. We're so used to being ripped off by our own hospitals that we don't even notice when we're getting ripped off by someone else's.
Exactly. Our completely warped baseline for what medical care should cost might be inadvertently subsidizing this entire criminal enterprise in Nepal. The scammers know they can push the envelope with American insurers because our normal is already insane.
That is a wild economic ripple effect.
It really is.
Okay, so let's bring this down to the ground level for a minute. I'm listening to this right now. I still want to go to Nepal. It's one of the most beautiful places on earth. I want to see Everest, but I do not want to be a pawn in some corporate money laundering scheme.
Right. You want to have an authentic, safe experience.
How do I protect myself?
Yeah.
David Weiss has some clear rules for this, right?
He does. And honestly, if you are planning a trip to Nepal, you need to memorize these. This is the Don't Get Scammed Survival Guide.
Okay, hit me with rule number 1.
First and foremost, beware the budget trap.
Everyone loves a deal.
We all do. But you have to do the math. You'll see these big aggregate travel websites, and they'll be offering a full Everest Base Camp trek for $800 or $900.
Which sounds amazing. A 2-week trek for under $1,000. Sign me up.
It sounds amazing because it's impossible. David breaks down the actual costs, the government permits, the food, the lodging and tea houses, paying the guide a living wage, paying the porters properly. You cannot run that trek, honestly, for $800. The math simply does not work.
So if a company is charging $800, they have to be losing money on the trek itself.
They are. They're running the trek as a loss leader because their actual profit model is the helicopter rescue. They are betting that out of a group of 10 people, they can scam at least 1 or 2 rescues and make their $10,000 or $20,000 profit that way.
So I'm not the customer. My insurance policy is the customer. I'm just the bait.
You're the bait. You are the cheap printer they sell you so they can gouge you on the ink cartridges for years to come.
That's a great analogy. So if the price looks way too good to be true.
It is. Run away.
Okay, what's next?
The best advice is to choose a small, local, owner-operated company. Not the massive conglomerates, not the international booking websites.
Why small and local?
Because the small business owner in Kathmandu is trying to build a reputation. They live and die by their TripAdvisor reviews. They want you to have a good time, so you come back or so you tell your friends. They're playing the long game. They aren't looking for a one-time insurance payout. They're looking to build a career and a respected business.
And David actually vets these smaller companies.
He does. And this is the most critical piece of consumer advice from this whole situation. His guidebooks are the only ones on the market that explicitly vet companies and include lists of operators who are not implicated in any of these trekking scams.
How does he even know that?
Because he's on the ground. He checks the official records, he talks to the porters, he talks to the guides. He vetted them all back in 2018, and none of his recommended companies were named in that 700-page report. He's vetted them all again for the 2026 update, and none of them are in this new batch of arrests.
That is a hell of a track record.
It's the gold standard for trust in that industry.
Okay, so let's say I'm on the mountain. Maybe I made a mistake. I picked a shady guide. I start feeling a little sick. And he immediately says, helicopter time. What do I do in that moment?
Rule number 1 in that situation, demand a rest day.
Just stop walking.
Just stop. Most actual legitimate symptoms of altitude sickness will resolve or improve if you simply stop ascending and rest for 24 hours, or descend just a few hundred meters. If your guide refuses to let you rest, if he's panicked and says, no, we have to fly now, over just a minor headache,
That's a huge red flag.
it's a massive red flag. He's trying to push the panic button for profit.
Okay, what else?
Next, you call the insurer yourself. Do not let the guide do it.
He'll offer to, I assume.
He'll say, oh, it's very complicated. Just give me your policy number and your passport. I'll handle everything. Do not do that. That is like handing your credit card and PIN to a stranger. Call the 24-hour emergency number on your insurance card yourself. Speak to the agent or the nurse on their end directly. Describe your symptoms calmly and accurately.
And the last piece of advice is my favorite.
The CSI Himalayas move.
I love it.
If you do end up getting on a helicopter, for whatever reason, take a picture.
A selfie.
A selfie with the other passengers in the helicopter, or just a photo showing that there are other people on the flight. Take a picture of the cockpit. If you can see the flight manifest, take a picture of it.
And that's to prove it wasn't a private flight like they're going to claim.
Exactly. When your insurance company gets a bill for a $30,000 private emergency rescue, and you can email them a photo of you squeezed in with 4 other smiling hikers, you have just given them all the evidence they need to deny the fraudulent part of that claim.
You're not just saving yourself from future premium hikes, you're actively helping to kill the scam.
It is an act of consumer resistance.
So to wrap this all up, we have a syndicate that has been operating with impunity for at least a decade. We have a government that shelved a damning report. We have a fresh set of arrests, but a looming election that could derail the whole thing.
It really feels like a pivotal moment for Nepal.
And we still have that lingering question about the scapegoat. The foreigners did it, excuse is dead, now that Danny Kaine is gone, and the arrests are all local. But do you think they'll try to find a new one?
That's the billion rupee question, isn't it? With the pressure mounting, will the wealthy, powerful trekking operators try to find a new, non-Nepali target to blame? Will they invent a new Danny Kaine? Or will they finally have to accept that the rot is coming from inside their own house?
We're going to have to watch what happens after March 5th very, very closely.
We will. The world will be watching.
If you're listening to this and you want to support the good guys, and we have to stress there are so many good, honest, hardworking guides and porters and tea house owners in Nepal, you have to vote with your wallet.
It's the only language that matters in the end.
And the only way to do that is to have the right information. You absolutely need to check out David Way's and the Longest Way Home Nepal travel website.
It really is the Bible for independent travel in Nepal.
And he has just released the fully 2026 updated guidebooks.
And remember, this is the key takeaway. These are the only guidebooks that vet for these scams. If you get a David's Guide, you know you are supporting the ethical operators who are trying to do things the right way.
Go to The Longest Way Home, get the book, have an amazing, safe, and honest trek, and don't forget to take that selfie in the chopper.
Always take the selfie.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.